Hello, welcome to today's episode of the Weapons of War podcast. I am your host, Eden Chironde. Hope you've been well. Today we are going to look at, again, we are continuing with this potential issuance of a central bank digital currency by the Bank of Uganda. But we are going to tackle something. We are going to look at the cost-benefit analysis. Why? Because in June 2025, this year, in the final consultative report on the potential issuance of central bank digital currencies, Bank of Uganda noted that one of the recommendations should be a detailed feasibility study to assess the costs and benefits of central bank digital currencies. So today specifically, we are going to look at, firstly, I'll go with the benefits. As per the report that they issued, the final consultative report, the benefits listed in there. Then we shall look at the costs or the potential challenges they listed in there, and especially the costs that they never mentioned. Again, perhaps to back up a bit for anyone new in regard to this subject, central bank digital currencies. Central bank digital currencies, like the cryptocurrencies, digital money, but these, unlike the cryptocurrencies, which are individually issued by companies or individuals, the central bank digital currency will be issued by the Central Bank of Uganda, Bank of Uganda. So there have been a bit of progress they have made in this regard. One, for example, they had research last year in June 2024, which research they sent out to 250 stakeholders, and they got responses from 151 people. That's a 60% response rate, and 96% of the respondents were based in Uganda. 4% were outside of Uganda, in Kenya, Armenia, Egypt, Sri Lanka, and Tanzania. These are stakeholders. From that research that they conducted last year in June 2024, there was a report that came out. When that report came out, they had a consultative meeting of stakeholders. That's on March 4th this year. Or they discussed the findings, delve deeper into the research. So this final report that was finally released by Bank of Uganda in June this year was the result of, one, the research that was conducted last year, and two, the consultative stakeholders meeting or discussion that was held in March this year. So it's a combination of all that. One of the major recommendations from this final report, consultative report, was conducting the cost-benefit analysis. What are the likely benefits we are going to get from the issuance of central bank digital currency, and what are the likely costs? I really agree with this kind of approach. Why? Because it's mainly the modus operandi we go through when you're making decisions. We always count the costs and the benefits. For example, give road safety issues here. When we say that about 11 to 15 people die daily on the Ugandan roads, mainly the major means of transport that most of those people use is borders. But again, you find that there are parents who will be like, you know what, I've seen the risk of using borders, but I can still put my child on a border to go to school. And then there are some people who be like, yeah, I've seen that risk, and because of that risk, no, I'm not putting my child on a border to go to school, or I'm not using borders anymore. It's all about weighing the costs and the benefits. That's the whole issue of life, how we make our decisions. Even when you get to, if you are moving house, you have to consider, so if I move from place A to place B, what are the benefits and what are the costs? Am I moving further away from my friends and relatives and then moving further in this new location, but is the new location closer to my workplace, closer to my children's school, and therefore I'll be saving more money instead of, the transport perhaps costs are incurring. So that's usually the daily kind of process that we go through, weighing benefits and costs. So the report actually recommended is right. So we shall delve into the benefits first, though it's always called cost benefit, but we shall go on the benefits first. We shall start with the good news. According to the report, the opportunities identified and the benefits for the issuance of central bank digital currencies in Uganda. Again, I shall go over certain of these statistics for the benefit of those who are joining us for the first time. The report noted that 62.9% of the respondents indicated these as the major benefits of central bank digital currencies if they're issued in Uganda. One, that there will be a deepening of the digital economy across various sectors, fostering innovation and efficiency in the financial system. When they talk about deepening of the digital economy, one of the major examples they look at there is mainly the mobile money, how it came through, and so many people were able to get into mobile money. It is transactions. Those that feared to work with bulk amounts of money, they could have it on mobile money. It came with so many advantages. So they are saying that the potential issuance of central bank digital currencies will come with this kind of benefits too. And fostering innovation, 57.6% said it will foster innovation mainly because of the platform it uses, that's the blockchain, that it has limited, that platform has limited possibilities, we can do so much. Efficiency, again, in terms of efficiency, they are looking at reduced transaction costs. Why reduced transaction costs? Because this being Bank of Uganda, it may not be entirely commercially minded or profit minded. Therefore, there is a thought that perhaps there will be less charges in terms of transactions as we send or receive money, or withdraw, sorry, as we send and receive money, that there will be little charges because Bank of Uganda may not be entirely motivated to make profit the way say mobile money operators are. The other benefit that was mentioned there, making financial transactions more transparent by recording all transactions. So they say that being able to monitor all transactions by anyone at any time is an advantage, it's a benefit. And from various commentators say it's a benefit mainly to fight terrorism, money laundering, illicit trade, all anyone doing something bad using money. They will be able to track them, how they got the money and how they used it. So they say that's one of the benefits of issuing central bank digital currencies. One of the other benefits was improving transaction speed and reliability. When they talk about reliability, mainly it's because this is managed by the central bank. Central bank is not going to collapse tomorrow. So imagine now if a Greenland bank collapsing sometime back, then there was a Crane bank recently. So imagine if you had your deposits there, or Silicon Bank that just collapsed in the US. Now imagine you had your money there, what happens to your deposits? You get, if say you have your mobile money today and then, God forbid, the mobile money operator runs bankrupt, what happens to your mobile money today? Whatever it is, these private entities can collapse, that's what they say. But with the central bank digital currency, you can be so sure that the Bank of Uganda is here to stay. It's backed by the state, for God's sake. So they're telling you it's reliable, and in terms of speed, they trust the platform, blockchain, that is efficient, and they talk about also reduced operation risks compared to traditional financial systems. Operation risks, you can consider like moving money from one place to another. People are often waylaid on the way, clubbed to death, or injured permanently by thieves, and so many other things that could happen to them along the way. So one of the other benefits is cost reduction in managing and distributing the physical money. We talked about here that the cost of printing money, according to the financial year 2022-2023, that Bank of Uganda spent 199 billion, that's almost 100 billion, printing and issuing currency and perhaps the coins. That's about $55.5 million. And yet, in the financial year 2021-2022, the bank spent 172.3 billion. That represents a 16% increase in the expenditure of making the money, printing the money and issuing it out. So they say there will be a reduction in cost. There will be a benefit when you issue central bank digital currencies. And from all the respondents, 70.9% agreed to this point. Also remember the Deputy Bank of Uganda Governor Augustine Nwagaba, who was speaking during the 3rd Annual Public Finance Management Conference, April 25th, 2025, when he alluded to the issue of Uganda going cashless because of the growing cost of printing money. In his reasoning, he said that Ugandans were so bad at handling money that even in church, when someone's giving money, they want to take out the note, fold it, and then put it in the basket. So he said that because of that, our money is, wears out so quick, and yet we are spending so much on that. But I don't know that this will be a benefit, especially when I look at what just happened with the express penalty system. The express penalty system, we see that it was to be managed by a Russian company. But apparently the Russian company was to get, according to the data I found on the internet, was to get 80% of all the revenue collected from the traffic fines. 80%. The Russian company was to get that. And the Ugandan government was to receive 15%, and the remaining 5% was to go to the National Enterprise Corporation. The Russian government, the Russian company handling the express penalty system, 80%. The government, 15%. National Enterprise Corporation, 5%. The calculation there was that if, say, for every $510 million, dollars in projected fines, okay, if the fines and the fines amounted to $510 million, that apparently the Russian company was to get 408 million. 408 million of that money. That's 1.5 trillion. The government, $408 million, which translates to 1.5 trillion Uganda shillings. The government, $76.5 million, whereas the National Enterprise Corporation would get $25.5 million. So when you look at that system, the express penalty system, that was going to be managed by a Russian company, and the Russian company was going to get all this money. Of all the traffic fines that were going to come through, it was going to get 80%. Then you have to also ask yourself that, what about the company or the entity that will be in charge of the central bank digital currency? Because I do not think that that infrastructure will be managed by Uganda. So therefore, there is like a likelihood of being an external entity giving us that infrastructure to run our central bank digital currency. Now, how much will that cost the country? What will that cost be? So before we get into that, we shall be saving from the printing and issuing of this money, we also have to look at that saving, that 200 billion as per the financial year 2022-2023, vis-a-vis the likely cost that we are going to incur and give to this entity that will be managing the central bank digital currency infrastructure. Because I don't think that infrastructure will be free. How much will that cost us? Then you can talk about the cost, whether we should actually, there's a benefit in leaving the notes and the coins to go on the central bank digital currency. Anyway, they also said there will be improved cross-border trade and regional financial integration. When they talk about cross-border trade, I think in Uganda or in East Africa, the biggest issue is not the modes or the money's digital or banknotes or coins being used. The biggest issue has been, I think, barriers to trade. Because we've read about issues to do with our maize being stopped from going to Kenya for whatever reasons, our milk and dairy products being banned from certain markets, again within East Africa. So you find that our issues within East Africa may not entirely be down to whether we are using digital money or central bank digital currencies, etc., but there could be barriers to trade. And then the issuance of the central bank digital currency solve this. I think the major problem at the moment that we could be battling with will still remain with or without the central bank digital currency. So I don't know whether improvement of cross-border trade is a benefit as such. And then they talk about enhanced monetary policy implementation. That's things to do with inflation. If there's too much money in the market chasing very few goods, that means the prices of the goods will go high. If there's little money chasing few goods, then the price of the goods will go down. So to stabilize, to ensure that there's an equilibrium there, that when you issue central bank digital currencies, that will be easy for the Bank of Uganda to achieve. And then they talk about improved financial discipline and transparency. When they talk about especially transparent and financial discipline, in Uganda you have to think about especially corruption. Since this will be all digital money now, they'll be able to monitor all transactions. With the central bank digital currency, they'll be able to monitor all transactions. Therefore, they can easily see who took which money for what and used it for what. They can easily track that. Who tried to bribe who, they can easily track that, especially when you consider that corruption in Uganda is now a 9 trillion shilling industry. And so every campaign that's launched in Uganda, you know, perhaps the biggest chunk is going to be lost in corruption. And when it gets to even issues to do with the parish development models, Myoga, Teva, Tandikwa, all those kind of campaigns, they say that with the transparency now in place, so with the central bank digital currencies, there will be a certain ease in terms of dispensing the money to the actual recipients, therefore eliminating much of the middlemen that a lot of the money was lost. Again, that's also being talked about as one of the benefits why we should think about issuing a central bank digital currency. But if we are to look out of Uganda, so many people, other countries have talked about security. They say that a lot of these terrorist organizations and groups, you know, they'll be able to track the money, where it's going and where it's coming from. And if they're able to track that, they can see where someone is spending the money. Because with the central bank digital currency, it's completely online. So they can even see what you are purchasing. So if they're able to see what you're purchasing, so that means that they can easily, apparently, fight terrorism and also fight money laundering and whatever illicit trade that has been going on using banknotes and coins. We are still going through the benefits. So because of those benefits, according to this report that was the final report, consultative report issued by Bank of Uganda in June this year, 2025, they said, according to the report, 88.1% of the respondents said the issuance of CBDCs in Uganda is going to have a positive impact. 88.1%. And then 9.9% said it's going to have a negative impact. In terms of programmability, again, I'll explain it here. Programmability is the ability to program your money on what it can buy, when you can buy, where you can buy, in what volumes to buy. It is they program your money. Again, when I talk about programming your money, I want you to think about, especially like the ATM. When you think about the ATM, depending on the account that you have, if it's a salary kind of account, you could be given a certain limit to withdraw every time you go to the ATM. Or they can give you a certain limit to withdraw per day. They may say every time you withdraw it's 1 million, but per day you can withdraw up to 2 or 3 million. But if someone has, say, a prestige account or exclusive account, they may be told, no, for you, with your exclusive account, you can withdraw 10 million per withdrawal or up to 20 million per day. And someone may have a business account. Now, a business account, because they know you deal in bulk monies, it could be programmed differently. So it's all about programming, okay? So when we go to the issue of programmability of the central bank digital currencies, 65.6% of the respondents indicated that Uganda should consider issuing programmable CBDCs, a central bank digital currency that can be programmed. Now, when they talk about the programming of this money, they talk about it in positive terms. You can program money. Say, if we are issuing parish development model money, we can program the money from the central bank to the recipients directly onto their accounts, that each person in this area gets 1 million. Each person in this area gets 1.5. The people in this area get 2 million. You can program it. They talk about it in the positive terms. But it has an underside to it, that someone can program your money into a control tool, whereby they can control it in terms of what you can buy, where you can buy it, how you can buy, in what quantities. Now that's a system that is tyrannical. That's a system that will give a lot of power to the governments or to the entities that be in terms of controlling your life. For whatever reason, they can determine, because now the usage of your central bank digital currency will not depend on the availability of your money or not. It will depend so much on your adherence and obedience to the various agendas that they keep rolling out. That if you are obedient, you can access this much. If you are not obedient, then for you, no. And then, of course, there will be a class of the essential workers who will be perhaps in charge of implementing these things and ensuring that the rest of the masses adhere or fall in line. You get. So programmability solved, though 65.6% of the respondents to this report were for programmable money or CBDCs. It is the greatest evil that is hidden in this central bank digital currency agenda. It's the control system. In terms of preference to transact, 78.1% said they would prefer to transact using central bank digital currencies. 83.4% trust central bank digital currencies, that they will be safe and reliable as digital payment options. Those seem to be the benefits. And according to research, so many people agreed that these benefits are worth it, they're worth exploring, and it's worth it for Bank of Uganda to undertake the issuance of the central bank digital currencies. But you have to pause and think for yourself, given those benefits that you've listened to, and the impact that the issuance of the central bank digital currency is likely or will have on the economic system, is it worth it? Because you have to think that if BoU or Bank of Uganda issues a central bank digital currency, how will it affect the entire financial ecosystem? What will happen to the mobile monies? What will happen to the commercial banks, the Visas, the MasterCards, whatever fintechs are in the country, financially speaking? Where will all those people go? What will happen to that ecosystem? What will happen to it? And these benefits that we've talked about here, and some of them even, debunked to a degree, are they worth this sort of overhaul of our financial system? Because this is not a mere change from banknotes and coins. Like Catherine Fitz said, this is a shift from a currency system to a control system. I've showed you how programmability will bring in the control side of things. They are going to control your money, and it will be, like someone called it, to be potential money, to not be your money. But anyway, the report goes ahead to mention some of the challenges. 87.4% of the respondents to that report issued by BoU said that one of the challenges will be cyber security, hacking. How unhackable will the system be? Okay, and then they talked about operational risks, especially downtime of the system. When you talk about downtime, you've received those messages from banks where they tell you from this time to this time their online systems will be off for maintenance for this, from this time to this time the ATM will be off for maintenance, etc. Now what happens in the event that there's no cash and there's no alternative like mobile money? There's no other alternative. The only alternative we have are the central bank digital currencies, and then they need to work on the system. Right now, when your bank sends you that note that the online system will be off, you're like, okay, there's an ATM I'll go to, or I can walk into the bank, all other options, or let me get the cash and I build my cash for that time period when the bank will be, maintaining the services. I'll have this cash to go buy. Now, when all our cash we have is central bank digital currency tokens, and now they are maintaining the system, what happens? You don't eat, you don't travel, you don't move, you don't what, because there's no alternative for cash or coins. So we need to think through certain of these things. And then they talk about the other challenges. They say that financial stability, because it's going to destabilize the financial instability. That's 60.3%. Talked about financial stability. There will be financial stability because Bank of Uganda will be able to control inflation and all other policies it may want to issue. They talk about other issues here, challenges. They talk about infrastructure deficiencies. Of course, they're talking about digitally speaking, and the penetration of our internet, the access to smartphones, etc. They talk about privacy concerns, but the privacy concerns, they don't go so much deep into them. They think people are only bothered by their personal data, and they stop there. But then they say we have good laws to guard against that. So I don't know how much the law will protect us against, against abuse of our data. But the other challenge that's never mentioned is the control system. That this programmability of the central bank cryptocurrencies is the biggest evil, that no matter how many benefits that you may list from A to Z, or 1 to 100 benefits, split them into sub-benefits, whatever you want to do, this one, an evil and ugly cost, the cost to freedom, the cost of our liberties, just robs all manner of benefits that they're trying to sell. Because there's no cost for freedom, there's no cost to our liberty. When you talk about liberties, we all know that liberties and freedoms are God-given, and then someone comes to use a certain benefit while they're taking this whole thing. That's not the kind of exchange that is reasonable. Because if someone comes and tells you that, oh, for all these benefits, financial inclusion, depending on a digital economy, now those are coming at the expense of your freedom, at the expense of your liberty, would you agree to that? But they're not putting it out there like that. But you know that they'll be able to program your money to decide for you that you can only use your money in this location. That because we are fighting this, you cannot use your money to fly out. No, you cannot use your money to purchase such goods. No, you cannot use your money to do this. How will they be able to do that? They will be able to program your money that if you try to purchase certain goods, no, you can't purchase them. If you try to purchase a third shirt in a year, no, you can't purchase that, because the clothes industry, emits a lot of fumes. So if you buy a third shirt, you'll be contributing to the emission or abuse of our planet. No, then if you want to travel to go check on someone very far, no, you can't travel there, because your travel there will mean that you'll be emitting so many fumes. So you just keep within where you stay. Just call them, just give them a call. So you see the kind of intrusion and control that is going to come alongside the issuance of central bank digital currencies, that no matter how you try to look at it, there is no positive to it almost. That this positive they are selling is almost a lie. It's a cover-up of the actual intention that they have. The actual intention they have here, and they have talked about it, absolute control, that they are going to have all the absolute control, and they have all the technology to effect it, and the programmability can give governments access to determine the desirable and undesirable goods. Who gives government such control? Everywhere, people fight to ensure that government has less and less control over their lives. And here you have an agenda system, central bank digital currencies, that is handing over all this overwhelming control and putting it in the hands of governments. And governments to do what? To launch an untold era of control that are unprecedented, that we have never seen. So we find that this programmability of central bank digital currencies, especially the bad side of it, is not talked about enough. That if you go to know the depth of it, you would know that actually all these kind of benefits they're trying to sell us, they're just cover-ups. And even the mere thought that the system will not exactly be managed here or run here in Uganda, that should even scare you more. It will be run at an international level, because the head of the IMF said that this should not be central bank digital currency, should not be national prepositions. She wants interoperability, a system that IMF is working on to ensure that all the things are synced and there's only one system. Imagine that even the people that will be in charge of these central bank digital currencies may not be seated at BoU. And those are the people that will be in charge of programming your money. What did you say online? You said what? That this is bad. You talked about this one, you talked about the other later. Now you go to purchase the internet, no, you can't purchase internet. You are locked out of the internet. Or you go to purchase your electricity token, no, you can't. We are punishing you for this. You understand? So it will be a control system in place, replacing a currency system, just as Catherine Fitz said, that economist, former Bush, administrator. So you find that that is the hidden agenda in this central bank digital currency. So if you have to consider the cost-benefit analysis, that discussion does not even take off if you consider the cost. The cost alone is humongous. It's coming, these so many benefits are coming at such a huge cost. We can try to look at our response to I can refer to COVID and how the entire world responded to it. From the data that was shared, you find that the virus had a survival rate of about 97%. But for a virus that had a survival rate of 97%, that means if you got it, you had the chance of survival of up to 97%. But the way we reacted, we destroyed the economies, destroyed people's livelihoods, put children out of school, locked up curfews. An era of dictatorship was unleashed to fight a virus that the benefit was survive a virus that has a 97% chance of survival. But the cost was, according to the Ministry of Health COVID-19 update given on July 2nd, 2021, they said the cumulative deaths were 1,939. But the cases were 83,636. So when you consider that the cases were 83,636 and the deaths 1,939, you see that the death rate was 2.3. 2.3, which meant that at that particular time, the survival rate was 97.3. But see what we did as a country. One, we closed businesses. And this was by about April 22nd, this Monitor article, April 22nd, 2020. They said by that time, over 4,200 companies had closed. Over 4,200 companies had closed. So you are closing people's livelihoods. And now when you are looking at companies, you have to consider the people that were working in those companies. When you consider the people that were working in those companies, you have to consider their dependents. So how many people were affected when these companies were closed? And we are talking about April 2020. So by the end of the 2-year tenure, when we were into this lockdown, open, how many companies were closed and what was the effect on people's livelihood? All in the name of surviving a virus with a 97.7% survival rate. So you find that the benefit that we are getting and vis-a-vis the cost, they didn't balance well. So for me, that takes us back to even this CBDC thing. That's how we should look at it. If they are promising these so many benefits, it's inclusion, international trade, what is the cost? What are we giving up? What are we losing? Okay. We may review some of these COVID numbers. This is the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. The report stated the total number of attempted and completed suicide amongst refugees in 2020 increased by 129 compared to 2019, with a total of 347 recorded suicides. Now you find that while we are fighting the virus, there are a lot of deaths this side, a lot of destruction of life this side. So where was the balance? Where was the benefit? You get, this was in June 2021, during an NTV interview, the Minister of Health herself, Ruth Acheng, revealed that the country had lost 334 people at the time to COVID, but acknowledged that a lot more had died due to other diseases than COVID because they couldn't travel to hospitals. So while we were fighting this virus, again we caused untold harm. Now that video, you can look at it. I'll pause for a moment and see.
The variants.
But you're also forgetting that strict enforcement of lockdown was possible in 2020 because to some people there was a political motive and interest to do that. And now it's as if the same government, the same ministry that was enforcing lockdown like never before, when actually deaths were lower, now they're not because you have no political dividend.
Mr. Kamara, there was no political motive, absolutely. It was about lives of the people.
Yeah, but now are dying more, it's more aggressive, it's more transmissible, and yet you have not thought about protecting the lives like you did in the past.
Mr.
So
Kamara,
how can I not deduce that there was another motive behind as well?
Very good. Let me tell you this. We learned a lot of lessons from the lockdown. Many countries at that time were instituting lockdowns to try and control the pandemic. Many. It wasn't only Uganda. But there were lessons to learn from the lockdown. As a country like ours and the economy that we know, first of all, we had challenges with managing the other disease conditions. We lost people. We lost pregnant mothers. We lost children. We lost cancer patients who could not access facilities or radiotherapy. We had to feed people. You saw the challenges we had with distributing food. It was not easy. It wasn't easy for many families. Now, while we now need this lockdown more than ever, there is need to plan properly and put in place measures to ensure that other disease conditions are well attended to. In the first wave, we lost 334 people, but we lost more people to other disease conditions than to COVID because of the lockdown. HIV patients could not access their medicines. TB patients could not access their medicines. It was a challenge managing cases of malaria. So right now, we are looking at all those options. And by the way, COVID has affected the economy of many countries. It is a challenge to collect revenue. The resources are not there. Every country is literally struggling. So you cannot tell the head of state to get up and lock. When he locks, what do we hope to achieve? There must be systems in place that will ensure continuity of the other essential services, and people will be able to access services. 2, people must eat. What about people who live from hand to mouth? They must eat. So there are lessons that you draw from every intervention that you implement. And the next time that you have to implement it, you must be really prepared. There was no political motivation. It was the life.
Now, when you consider that untold harm, then you consider the school dropouts, kids lost over 2 years, the child pregnancies and all. Now, do you think in terms of cost-benefit analysis, when you consider the costs and the benefits we gained from the way we responded, was there even any benefit? I don't know, you'd be the judge. Now, that's the same approach or thought process you're supposed to have when you consider the issuance of the central bank digital currencies. That they are coming and they're saying that this, but it's coming at what cost? What are you giving up to gain this? These so many benefits that are being sold that are coming with the issuance of central bank digital currencies, the cost is going to be your freedom and your liberties. That's the cost. Now it's up to you to think through that for the benefit of financial inclusion, I can give up my liberty. That's up to you. If you think that for the benefit of international trade, that you shall be able to trade with, then I can give up my freedoms, is it worth it? That for the benefit of fighting corruption, which is a 9 trillion shilling industry at the moment, I can give up my freedoms and liberties. Is it worth it? There won't be a rolling back of the system once it's rolled out. So you have to know that once certain of these things are allowed in, getting them out is almost impossible. So that's just a brief take on the cost-benefit analysis for the issuance of central bank digital currencies. That in so many ways, it looks like they are all is an evil system that's being brought in with almost no benefit at all. So again, we may have to take a cue from USA, which just voted 219 to 210 to prevent the creation of the central bank digital currencies. Perhaps we may need to take a break, pause here, and think through our next move. Thank you for watching, and I hope you've learned something. But again, we can continue our discussion in the comment section, ask so many questions, share your views and thoughts. And please, if you have gotten this far, like, share, and also share with your friends and family to alert them about this agenda that is rolling out without so many people's knowledge. Again, I've been your host, Eden Chironde, and this is the Weapons of War podcast. Till next time.